Okay, so let's talk about client-server terminology. Why do we care about this? We've been working this whole time on learning how to create a little database on Access and do all this cool stuff. Databases, like just on your local computer, they can be useful if you have a small personal project kind of thing, but in general, they're not that useful if it's just on your computer. If you recall way a million years ago at this front of the quarter, we were thinking about like, what are databases? Where do we see them in real life? You know, we have like databases at the school that have to be shared across a lot of different computers. You have companies like Amazon, where you have a lot of information stored in one company, but like it's a huge, massive amount of information that people access through the internet. You know, you can access it at your house, kind of thing. You have things like stores like Safeway, where you know they've got like web presence and they've got like the cashier stations and all these different spots where they have to connect in. And then you have things like we talked like NCIS. You've got like the you know the databases that have like all the criminals and all the fingerprint records and all the uh, the driver licenses, and you know you've got like the FBI and CIA, and like those can talk together or not. You know, all these complex systems. So how does all that work? We're going to give a very lightweight peek into this. Those of you who are going into the next course will get much deeper into all this kind of stuff. But for our purposes, just understanding that there's 3 different layers in this system, which can be sometimes flattened to 2. So it's 2 plus. But those align with the 3 logical components. So basically you have a user interface part, the client. So that is you accessing from your computer, or the cashier accessing something from their workstation, that type of thing. You have the apps, the processing and business rules. Um, so that might be like, if, for example, if we're talking like Amazon, you access Amazon.com from your computer or phone. It's handled through a web server that kind of limits you to what you're allowed to view, right? You can't get into their intranet systems, like the stuff that only Amazon employees can get, and you're probably limited to just what you can see in like the US. Like a lot of times you can't even see what like the Russian version of Amazon and stuff like that, or like you can't buy things from the UK version of Amazon, right? So there's business rules that limit what you're allowed to see based on where you're at, things like that. And then you have the big bad storage data layer that's like where you have like data warehousing and data lakes, where you have all the massive amounts of information that all these different places bring their information into. If you do have this flattened version of it, where you literally just have a client server relationship, it's possible what happens is that the middle business layer can either be pushed into being on the client side, and if that happens, it's called a fat client and a thin server, or it can be pushed into the database layer, in which case it'd be a thin client and fat server. I don't personally like the terminology here, but that it is what it is. That is what it is called. Okay, so these 3 different components do have to exist, but they can be reshuffled as needed.